Good evening, folks, for those in the US, and good morning to everybody in Australia, Saturday morning. Welcome to Something More Than Gibberish. This is episode 47. And today my feature will be John Michael. His handle is at John_Michael_poetry. I connected with John's work quite a few months ago, probably even close to a year ago when I was running, it would be over a year ago when I was hosting open mic lives. And to say that I was taken up by his work is an understatement. John's work's always very profound, meaningful, and comes from a deep place, offering a lot to help people on their way. And as you all know, in this show, I try to select people who've got depth in their poetry that can bubble up some profound conversations that can help people in any corner of the world. Now, John's in the room. Welcome, Tom. I'm going to bring John up and let's get this show on the road. Sit back, folks, for the next couple of hours. You're going to be entertained by some amazing poetry and get to know an absolutely amazing, beautiful person. I hope my audio is coming through okay. Let me bring John up. Hi, Marianne. Tom.
Hey,
hello, John.
How are you?
How are you, John? Welcome to the show. Brother, I have been waiting for this episode for quite a while, where we could just spend the next couple of hours just really delving right into your poetry and expounding on your work and understanding where you come from and what drives your writing. So welcome and thank you for honoring the show by agreeing to be a feature on this, my friend.
Absolutely, thank you. I'm honored to be on here, and it's always an honor to talk with you. Right from the first time we met, it was like a soul connection of some sorts, and the first time we met, you said something very profound to me that I've never been able to forget. And that's it's not who you are when you start, but who you are when you finish this thing, when you take your last breath. And at that time in my life, I was just starting to get clean. I was maybe a month clean or something like that, and that meant more to me than you'll ever know. It was like the right time for me to hear that, and it was a beautiful thing, and it's really helped me on my journey. So I thank you, and our conversations are always pretty profound.
Yes, I couldn't agree more, John. And that the fact that a comment made in our interaction stuck with you, that is the very reason I do this show, because through our conversations, um, we don't know who in what corner of the world would watch this. And sometimes that one sentence, that one statement can help somebody's life from a dark place. And that is a very, very, so I'm honored that you actually said that, John, because you've just given kudos to the very reason that I do this show. I'd hate to think I'm just wasting my time because, as you know, I share this on YouTube and I share it on all your podcast channels as well as Instagram. Now, I know in places like the subcontinent where YouTube's very popular and TikTok less so. So, you don't know who can gain what from the conversations we have through our individual experiences, what we write about, and then expounding on that work. So, yeah.
Absolutely, and just the lessons gained through suffering. I believe a lot of us, suffer a lot in our lives, and we look at it like it's a curse, and then something, profoundly goes wrong or right, depending on how you want to look at it. Kind of that dark night of the soul where, you don't know if you're not quite make it out of it. And, those of us that do and are able to move on, it's a whole life altering experience. And, if you look at it just right, it's a very profound experience to suffer. You know, the wisdom gained from that, the being able to see through multiple sets of eyes, if you will, kind of living, all sides of life,
Yeah.
I look back at my life and it's almost like I've lived 1,000 lives within this one lifetime, the very different versions of ourselves,
Mm. I can attest to that, yes, even from my own experiences, and you know, yeah, definitely. And interestingly, when I look back in hindsight, even the very first kick I took when I was 12 years old at losing my father, who I was very close to, I will begrudgingly say that if that had not had happened, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I
hmm
wouldn't be have the strengths that I have because it forced me to grow up. It was a high price to pay, you know,
hmm
especially on the other side. A mother left a widow for 44 years before her passing. So it's a high price for not just my father's life cut short, but even my mother's long-term endurance. She never even had a coffee with another man for those 44 years. But
Right.
that has helped me to, and my siblings to become who they are if we take time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I had a similar, well, not similar, but right around the same age. Um, my parents went through a bad
Mm.
divorce, and my brothers were both much older than me. So it was kind of like when they split, like one went one way, one went the other way. And there I was growing up by myself at, 12 years old, 13 years old, kind of bouncing around, and then, eventually just being out on my own, sleeping on friends' couches until I could get my own place at 16, so I grew up, working at 12, 13 years old, going to school and pretty much raising myself. You know, and it kind of steals that passion of
Yeah.
youth in that moment. It's all taken, and
Yeah.
your whole mind shift changes. It's a survival mode at that time.
I think it also attests to the to your own inner strengths. If you were to look at that scenario there, it's an absolute credit to your own strength in character at 12, 13 to be out there, out on a limb, building a life, as you said, studying, working, and when you look at the tree that you have become,
hmm
uh, that's all a credit to you and something for you to be proud of, and for you to look in the mirror and be really proud of who you've become, and now to be able to give that back in your words, in your the way you live life. Uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it took me a long time to see it that way, I I've gone through many deaths, if you will, and this last one was like a shift happened. I've been on a kind of a spiritual quest now for like 9 years. Actually, it's almost 9 years to the day. Um, and it was right after my separation from my wife, and I was in a hotel and apartment, by myself. I think I had one couch, a bed, and like a frying pan. No, nothing on the walls, nothing bare, and I sat there and I was like, what happened? how in the hell did I get here?
Mm.
And then the next question was, who the hell am I? And that started a 9-year trek that I wish I could say accelerated, and it had its rocky moments, but eventually it declined, to a very, very, very dark place. It was like everything that happened to me over the course of my life that I just said, put behind me and keep moving forward, keep your eye on the prize, don't let it was like that whole bag of trauma just split open in that one moment and everything came spilling out. And it's like, okay, now you got to deal with it all. And, it went into a 2-year really dark moment where I, to be bluntly honest, I gave up. Like, I was like, I can't do this no more. And it was like something flipped in my head and said, like something's broken. Like I can't. And, it took me 2 years to go through that. And unfortunately, I picked up and started using drugs again because I couldn't, stand to feel everything as I was trying to process it.
Mm.
But, at the end of that, it was really hard, and it came down to a moment and a conscious decision to, live or die. And, I think when you get to that moment and you choose to live, you do recognize that everything has to change, and it's a very spiritual moment,
I'm grateful that you picked the path you did, John. Really is, because I think you have a lot to offer people through your experiences. As you were saying that, I was just thinking, what a parallel our lives have been. You're in the on the northern hemisphere, and I'm in the southern hemisphere. But like, we both had that trauma around the 12-year mark. I had in my late 20s had an experience that in a relationship that turned my extroverted sort of expression of my pain into, I started looking within and I started writing, and I was writing profusely for about 15 years. But then I got married, and during the 20 years of that marriage, bringing up our son and my two
Mhm.
stepsons, it took a back seat. And about 9 years ago is when I split up and I went back with a passion into my writing, and I started exposing my writing on Instagram and so forth. It's amazing that the parallels our lives have been, John.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, I started writing when I was right around the age of 11, 12 years old is when I started writing. And, but there was blocks of my life where I'd stop, and my focus was elsewhere. And, I'd just put that behind me. And then something would happen and I'd write for another block of years. And then it would get pushed behind me. And then, probably about a year and a half ago, I picked up the pen again and started writing. And, you know, probably of almost a year now is when I started sharing my writing for the first time ever.
Yeah.
My whole life, I never shared it with anybody. It was just a way to release, whether it came out in a poem or it came out in 10 pages of just pure gibberish, mental vomit, if you will. And, which I still do to this day. Um, but it's funny how, I kept pushing it away. I was remembering back, me and my mom were actually talking a couple weeks ago, and I was telling her how I have these vivid memories from when I was like 4 years old, planting a tree with Nana in the backyard and, running across the yard barefoot and getting stung by a beetle on the bottom of my foot and sitting on the picnic bench holding my foot crying, and I was like, I don't know why I have these memories. Like I was like 4 years old. She goes, yeah, that's right about the time. And she's like, I can't believe you remember that stuff. And I forget where I was going with that, but it's shit. The human brain is
Yeah.
amazing. and the
I've got a photographic memory. I can't remember names and numbers, but a picture I can
Mhm.
remember. And When I was for the first 13 years of my life, my father was an inspector in the police, and we got transferred around every 12 months. So in the first 13 years of my life, I lived in 14 houses. From the time I was 5 years old, I can describe the insides of each of those houses. I can describe the insides of the colleges I went to, but I couldn't tell you the damn street that they were on. I couldn't tell
I'm kind
you.
of the same way.
Yeah,
I'm kind
but I,
of the same way. I have a vivid memory. Now, there's things that my mind has blocked out.
yeah,
There's small chunks of my life that I don't really. It's coming back to me now, but it's like almost like my brain shut that out. Like we're not dealing with that, you know. Um,
John, I'm
but
going to ask
it's
you:
just kind of. What?
Are you
Sorry.
still in the Virginia region?
Do what now?
Do you still live in Virginia, or which part of the state?
Yes, I'm in Virginia. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts.
Mhm.
So I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. I grew up in a small town called Quincy, and it was like a peninsula. So we were surrounded by Quincy Bay and Boston Harbor. And the house I grew up on was actually right there on the salt marsh, like my backyard, and that was all salt marshes and creeks and everything. Really, really
Yeah.
beautiful, really beautiful.
R-
I moved to Virginia 20 years ago, 21 years ago,
Yeah.
February, and I
R-
ended up moving down here for work. And um, you know, I was just starting a family at that time, and it was cheaper to live down here than up there,
Yeah.
and it kind of worked for the time. But
Reason I ask is, John, on my next trip, God willing, I'd love to come down to his Virginia area and actually meet in person, man, because we've got so much in common and so much in parallel that over a beer I could talk for hours with you. You know,
absolutely,
so
absolutely.
that would be amazing. So tell me, so at what point or what was the instigation to start writing even at that young age?
Um, I always kind of scribbled around. I was very artistic when I was really younger. I used to do like a lot of collage pieces and just a lot of artwork, stuff like that. And then I would write a little bit, but it wouldn't, I'd just look at it and laugh and throw it away, whatever. But when I was 11 years old, it was right when everything was going on with my family, and I had a counselor at that time that would sit down and talk to me every couple days. And she handed me a notebook and a pen and said, I just want you to write every night, like before you go to bed, because I could never really sleep very well. My mind always churning. So she said, just sit down at night and write. It doesn't matter. Don't try to write a poem. Don't try to write a story. Just write.
Mm,
Like, just empty your head. And I would just sit there, and every night I would write. Like I said, sometimes it would be 6 pages. Sometimes it would be 15 pages of whatever came out. And that's really how I started to write. And then, kind of after a few years, I would look at it and go back and read over it, and I'd find like these little gems in there,
yeah.
you know, and I'd be like, oh, well, that's cool. I like that. I'll take that and put it over here. And that's when I started really, I guess, writing poetry, although I didn't really know I was writing poetry. Um, most of my life, when I was writing poem formation, I wrote all micros. It wasn't until the past year when I started doing like long form poetry. Um, and it was kind of funny last night, just because I don't prepare for anything till the last moment, because that's how my mind works. So last night I sat down, I'm like, let me go through and try to find some pieces. And I sorted out my document thing for the first time. I've never done this, and I went back and found my earliest pieces that I still have and started reading through things. Like, it was like a trip down memory lane, and almost kind of a real emotional night. Like it was like a roller coaster ride. You know, I'd be laughing one minute and, you know, almost in tears the next minute. And, but just to see, you know, what I was writing back then compared to how it's evolved to now even was kind of an amazing journey last night.
Are we going to get into some of the early work as well?
Yeah, I've got a few early pieces here. There's a couple of them I probably won't share because they were just pure ridiculous. There was probably some from like 15, 20 years ago that I was just like, oh my God, I can't even believe I wrote that.
Yeah. So, John, as you're more than likely aware, I try to keep the show just under 2 hours because the archive nowadays, anything over, you lose the sound and the doesn't save the file well. So when I download it, I've got to do screen captures and all, which ruins the YouTube posts and so forth. But the whole show, it's all about showcasing you as a person or the featured guest as a person, their work, and these next couple of just under 2 hours is all for you to showcase who is John Michael and what is John Michael's work. So please don't, I'm just the facilitator. You just guide the show to wherever you want to go, wherever you're comfortable with, because this will be shared on, as I said, on many platforms, and it's all about showcasing you. Because I think the way I even pick my guests are, I want to bring people on who have a lot to give to others who might be in that situation like John was when he was 12, having to find himself without the guidance of parents and so forth. And John turned out to be an amazing person, and there could be many other souls there who have no one. And if your experience can help them, those are the two reasons for the show. So you take it any way you like. You share what you're comfortable, what you want to share, what you want to showcase. It's all yours. It is all about you.
Well, I appreciate that, my friend. Yeah, we'll get into a little bit of poetry here. You know, first off, to kind of, you know, I know we just talked a whole lot, but just to kind of to understand me, I guess. You know, mental health is something that I've dealt with my whole life. You know, I have Asperger's, ADHD, and bipolar, and I always felt it as a curse, which now I feel it's almost a blessing. It really is. Once you can learn who you are, take that time to process who you are, what makes you you, what your boundaries are, what are the little things that tick you off or bring you joy. And once you can find that, you know who can remain in your life and who can't, and kind of what avenue you need to take. Like I said, I've been on my path for about 9 years now, and you know, over that 9 years, you know, it was a lot of drug abuse that happened during that time. And really it was, I had so many feelings rushing back as I was trying to process all this information. I couldn't deal with it. And then I made that conscious decision, okay, now it's time to get clean. And you know, I reached up to the heavens, and I prayed for Mother of all things to guide me through that night, and that I would work every day and show up for myself every day. And that's what I've been doing to kind of set the path right. You know, I've already done everything wrong. Let me do it right this time, because this is my last chance to live. But, you know, dealing with those mental health issues, sometimes it's not the easiest for people to communicate properly or to understand, you know, kind of like read between the lines, and things get very confusing. And I think that sets us up for a lot of suffering, and a lot of lessons to learn. And that's why, it's so important to take the time to ask yourself those important questions. Who am I? Where did I get here? And then examine yourself and be honest with yourself, because if you're lying to yourself, it's not going to work. You have to be raw and honest with yourself. But this first poem it's an older poem. It probably dates back about 10 years. And it's called Moments. Blissful memories, these moments of the mind. Peace you brought me, I now cannot find. Left spinning in these waking hours, past moments, flooding my thoughts. Will you ever talk to me? Please tell me what it is I cannot find. And that goes right back to communication. That was like one of those moments where, somebody very important in my life just stopped talking to me, and I couldn't understand why. It was like, please just tell me what it is. Like, and like, it was just one of those things where there was just no communication. And, for me, it's kind of like a rabbit hole effect. If I don't know what I've done, I can't change it. And now my mind's going to analyze every single aspect, every single conversation, everything, trying to figure out what it is, which ends up spinning, me out into a whole lot of noise in the brain that guides you all down these tunnels that are leading to nowhere. It's just, you're thinking of things that don't even exist anymore. They've never even happened. And it's a scary place.
A couple of lines really hit home to that one could read on, and one should ask themselves is, peace you brought I now cannot find. And the other one was, please tell me what it is I cannot find, towards the end. As we grow and our vantage point changes, what was peace and tranquility is no longer, because we've grown emotionally, we've grown mentally, our experiences we've grown into adulthood, and then even through the different stages of adulthood, what the peace we had in one relationship, in one friendship, in one job, things change, and suddenly we're looking for that peace we had in that job, in their new job, or in that relationship or that friendship that we had, we're looking for in others. So that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I asked myself, is the problem with me? Am I looking to replicate my friend, what I had in my other job in this job? Am I looking to replicate what I had in that relationship with a totally independent, different person, with a friend?
But at the end of the day, that's in the past, and you're building a new, you're painting a new canvas. We truly paint our own reality.
Yes.
And I was telling a good friend of mine the other day about, I said the 17-second law of manifestation. If you hold on to a thought for 17 seconds or longer, it starts to change your vibration. So if you're thinking an angry thought or a sad thought, all of a sudden you're going to start to experience that emotion.
Yeah.
And you can get lost in that and drift off into a very bad place and ruin your whole day. Whereas if you can recognize it and say, okay, no, like, you're making shit up in your head.
Yeah.
Like, just, no, we're going this way. Now, all of a sudden, you just shifted your whole day. I don't have bad days anymore. Do I have bad moments? Of course I do. All of us. Everybody does.
Yes.
But we have the power to change that. We have the power to say, no, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
and go off in a positive direction. I mean, it's all up to us.
Yeah.
You know, I used to hate when people would say to me when I was younger, oh, it's mind over matter. Now I'd get so angry over that. Like, what do you mean? Like, I have no control over this. Well, you know, heavy was the foot that kicked me in the ass when I realized I'd been lying to myself for 40 years, you know? So, like, you know, I do have control over this. You know, I am painting my own reality.
Yeah.
You know, every thought that I do, every action I follow up with is guiding me somewhere. You know, when I first met you, I was living, friends took me in just at the right time before I got clean. So I was living in a room. I had nothing. I didn't have a job, any of that, you know. And I went from that small moment of not knowing how to climb out of that hole I was in to taking a job at a cemetery, you know, and then finding a better job, which getting back into my career in telecommunications, and then paying off $10,000 worth of personal debt that I needed to pay off to get it off of my karma, get it off of my conscience, and go into the new year right. And then I set a goal that I would have my own place by May, and you know, in February I just moved into this house out here in the country and right outside of Richmond on 10 acres of land, and you know, and I've made all this happen in 10 months. You know, I went from being a junkie on the street to taking a chance, putting my writing out there, making this decision to do things the right way, to leave the past behind, you know, stop living in it, forgive it, try to make amends and move on, you know, and start all over. And, you know, what I've been able to accomplish in a small time is a testament that anybody can do it. You know, if I can do it at 50, then, you know, if you're 18, 19, 20, you know, wow, look at what you can accomplish, you know. But it's just staying the course. But you have to, you know, it all comes down to knowing who you are, you know, what makes you tick, what makes you you, you know, and stopping the quest for peace and realize that we create our peace, you know. Peace isn't something that can be found, it can only be created.
And that's an absolute credit to you, really. I often say to people, I take life as what it is, not what I want it to be. Right now, this hour, I'm with John, not with Tom or Fred or Paul or anybody else. I am accepting and enjoying this moment with John. Not the John I want John to be, but the John who he is. When I go on holidays, I don't go to see what I want to see. I go there to see what there is to see. I enjoy every damn holiday, whether it's just an hour down the road or a flight overseas or wherever.
Right.
You know, and my interactions with people are the same. I don't want them to be somebody else or somebody that I want to be. I enjoy them for my time with them for who they are. And yeah, and you captured that so well in that piece. You know, as you said, micros sometimes are so potent. You know, like, and you that was intense, that piece that you shared.
Thank you. This next piece is this is one of my favorite pieces, and I'll read it and then I'll tell the story behind it. But this one's titled "Morning Never Comes." Morning birds sing, another night cry. I wish the morning sun wouldn't rise. Night could stay black. Dreams could just dream. I've been thinking of you. Roads empty, alone. Memories pouring like rain. Are you the star I see at night? If I could only go back, my only love. And that piece I wrote, like, right, probably about I guess 3 years ago now, when I started going into that really bad depression, or I got out of a relationship, and I ended up renting a room off of somebody, and I was taking that time to like pay off all my debts and get my life back on order, and that's kind of like right around the time where everything just hit. It was like every trauma in my life just hit me all at once, and I had to sort it all out, and I started writing again. That was one of the first pieces that I wrote, had written in a long time. And I was thinking about, an old, real true love, and it's somebody that I grew up with from kindergarten, and somebody that meant a lot to me. And, she had passed back in 2007. And for some reason, I had been thinking about her a lot, and I was trying to find a picture of her. Nobody had it. I couldn't find anything. And I sat down one night. It was probably about 3 o'clock in the morning. I wrote that, and I fell asleep. And when I woke up the next day, probably like 10 or 11 o'clock or something, I looked down. One of my friends had texted me a picture of her.
There you go.
And yeah, it was like instant. I can't even explain the feeling, and the synchronicity of it was, it had me in tears, and it was like a really spiritual, that was the universe speaking in volumes right there.
Yeah. It's funny, like when our ask is authentic and selfless, how the universe does bring it. Whereas if we ask for that, fancy car, that fancy job, that multi-million, and those things, don't seem to come. But when our ask is from love, from an authentic place,
Mm-hmm.
that supports our growth, bang, the synchronicity is amazing. That
It's really beautiful how it works out, and
yeah,
just like me going back to this last year, once I made that conscious decision to, I'm gonna get out of bed, I'm gonna get clean, and that was okay. I'm gonna get out of bed and make my bed, and that was like, okay, I'm doing that. Let me paint, and then I was, let me go get some vitamins and start taking vitamins.
Yeah.
So I'd get out of bed, make the bed, take a vitamin. God knows I need it.
Yeah.
I'd paint and write and get on these lives, and it's just the little baby steps that we take.
Yep. A line in that poem there, "Wish the morning sun wouldn't rise." That's something that many of us can relate to, right? I mean, even from a young age, where there's been many a day where we just wish the day wouldn't dawn. That's sometimes you almost got to get to that bottom of the barrel before that darkest point in the void, that you literally surrender, and then we start hearing the of the universe calling us. That I actually wrote a piece called "The Void," which is exactly speaks of that, where surrendered in total blackness, feeling nothing. And then you see that spark of light, and slowly that gets brighter and brighter, and you spiral, you uplift yourself. It's such a relatable piece, John. And the it's very real, It is. We all find it is in that hour of darkness that we start finding who we are inside.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And like you said, it takes that darkest moment, which, 10 months ago was that moment. I went through a 3-day of, I hate to say delusions or psychotic break, but that's what it felt like. I couldn't decipher what was real or what wasn't, and it was a really big decision to either end it all, or to pick it back up and move on. And I remember sitting there, and a few weeks before that, I'm gonna spin off a little bit, but a friend of mine, I went over a friend of mine's house, and they had one of those poke and stick tattoo things. And I said, "Oh, I want a tattoo." So they put 3 little dots on my pinky. And this was weeks before, and in that moment, I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting on my bed, and I'm really pushing the boundaries of I'm either ending it all or I'm picking it back up. And at that time, I was leaning more the other way, and I look down and I see these 3 dots on my pinky. I'm like, what the hell does that even mean anyway? So I start looking it up, and the first thing that pulls up is My Crazy Life, and I actually started laughing. I was like, oh my God, yeah, on point, right? And then I started looking, for other things, and it came up with, you to be continued. Your story's not finished yet. And I busted out in tears, and I said, okay. And that's when I walked downstairs to my friend Wendy, and I said, I think I'm going to get clean now. I think this is it. Everything's got to change now. And I went back upstairs, and I sat in that room for 3 weeks, didn't come out but to use the bathroom and have a drink. And I wrote and I painted every day and got on these lives. I think that was right about the time I met you.
Yeah.
And,
That's 3 dots can mean many things too, right? It's where we got to bring body, mind, and soul, body, mind,
yeah,
and spirit to it. Listen to that inner voice, find the strength in here, and then the body will follow. It's a synchronicity of the 3 parts of us, really.
it really is. It really is. And the letting go is the key. You have to be able to fully surrender and say, I can't do this no more. And
Yeah,
leave it up to faith, and leave it up to that inner calling in us, that intuition that we fight or get confused with, or we just I know my whole life I've always had that
yeah,
feeling,
yeah,
and it's like I'd get that feeling and go for it, and it ended badly. It's like, well, when the hell are you gonna learn that feeling
yeah.
means no?
You mentioned something to some of the as small, but they might sound trivial little rituals we do that really have a staunch place in life. About 15 years ago, my manager said to me, he goes, one of the things I do as I get up is to make my bed. He goes, the reason I do it is even if I have the most shittiest day one can imagine, at the end of the day, I got something nice to go into that made bed. Like when you walk into a hotel room for the first day.
Mhm.
And today, the first thing I do as I open my mind is I meditate for 10, 15 minutes lying there. Then I jump out of bed, and the first thing I do is make my bed.
Mhm.
I live by myself. There's nobody to even see if I make that damn bed, but I do it for me. So it doesn't matter what my day is. I can have a day from hell, but at the end of that day, I've got something nice and welcome me to rest and surrender myself to.
I do the same thing.
Yeah,
I do the same thing. I wake up every day and I
yeah,
make the bed. That's
yeah,
first thing I do. At night, when it's time to relax, I light all the candles
yeah,
and I just sit by myself in prayer for a little bit, and then I just start typing away and see what comes out.
yeah.
Um,
As Tom DeSaro said, battlefield of a mind for certain, daily accomplishments. You know what I mean? Um, I
yeah,
do that meditation I find in the morning as I wake up. I just before anything, I let whatever is in me just filter to my mind, and that gives me direction in my day or charges me up for the day. And I do the same thing in the night. I spend 10, 15 minutes just meditating there, and it's where I guess I find my transactions in the day, my interactions, is there anything for me to feel guilty about? Have I been my authentic self in every interaction in that day? That might be at work, that might be with friends, that might be with
Hmm.
a partner if I was seeing somebody, which I'm not now, but if I was involved with somebody, what my interactions with them. If I don't feel guilt, then I know I've done the right thing. Not
Hmm.
what society, the textbooks say, but my conscience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, society has a way of guiding us away from our authentic selves,
Yeah,
when we're young, when we've got those eyes of wonder and everything's beautiful, and
yeah,
we're running around the backyard and we're playing and we're creating, and that's your authentic self. And then life kind of, you can't be this way, you got to be that way, you got to please this person, you got to, we start wearing all these masks, and it's very hard when you get to that point in your life and it's time to peel all that back and really take a good look at what's inside. And
we sometimes we can wear so many masks we forget who the hell we are. We at that time,
yeah,
damn time, you know.
that's kind of where I got at the end. It was like, who the hell am I?
Yeah, yeah,
And locking myself in that room, and just the past 9 years in general, but the last 10 months, where up until February, I was living there, and I would work and then come home, and I'd stay in my room and I'd paint and I'd write and I'd do these lives, and kind of just became my sanctuary in a sense. And through that artwork and writing, I mean, those are two of the best ways, if you ask me, to really let go of everything, and to kind of kind of give yourself some space and forgiveness, and bring you back to a state of love where you're not focused on everything else. You just kind of focused on that art, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be anything. It is what it is, and it's an expression of your soul. And that has helped me so much. Just the arts over the last 10 months, it's truly helped bring me back to life. That, and just having the right people around me that loved and supported me for me,
yeah.
my crazy self, or just my crazy little rants or anything else, and just love me for me and give me the space to be me, and to just give me a break to where I could just breathe and reconnect with myself again.
Find
um
peace and contentment in our own skin is so important, isn't it? Isn't it? Because
it
otherwise,
really is. It really is, because at the end of my youth, it was, I couldn't even look myself in the mirror.
yeah,
It was like I got to a point where I was disgusted at my own sight. Like, who the hell have you
yeah.
become? Like, how did we get here? 9 years after I asked myself initially how I got there, which I was in a pretty good place. I wasn't in the best place, but in 9 years, I went from there all the way down, and then jackhammered another, 100 yards down. And I'm grateful for every bit of it, if that makes sense.
Johnny,
I mean, it was a very spiritual awakening for me. And it was like everything that I've been trying to find within myself over 9 years, overnight, just kind of, and everything clicked. And it was like, oh my God, I am in control of all this. I get to make my destination.
mm, mm. And in you electing to share your work through your poetry and discussions like this, through your struggles, there's so much that undetermined number of people around the globe that can benefit from that. Sometimes it's only a word, an action that can trigger somebody's own mind, plant the seed in somebody's mind to get them on that journey.
Hmm.
Somebody else who is lying there right now, this instant, wishing the sun would not rise tomorrow, can hear a word from your work, from these profound discussions we're having, to plant that seed, to make them look in the mirror and say, okay, this ends now. This is what I'm going to do. I'm jackhammer now in my own life down another 100 meters, 100 yards to change my life. I am going to put the path that I've been traveling, which hasn't been fulfilling, and now change the path the trajectory that I am on, and suddenly it's like pebble in the pond, the ripple effect, right?
It truly is, and that's why it's so important to be honest with yourself and share your story, no matter what, for better or worse. I am who I am. I did what I did. Am I sorry for some of it? Absolutely am. But it is what it is. I can't change it. Just like I can't change the weather. I can't change the traffic. If I'm stuck in traffic, I could scream and yell and get myself all worked up for no reason. Traffic's still going to be there. Or I could just sit back and breathe for a moment and make a phone call or listen to the radio or just sit in silence. I mean, we can only change ourselves. That's the only thing we can change. So living in the past, all we're doing is self-torturing ourselves.
Yes.
Mental abuse is a real thing, and we cause most of it on ourselves.
Yeah, it's something we can't change either, right? I mean, that glass is broken on the floor. We can't unbreak it.
We can't. We can't. What's done is done. All we can do is learn from it and move forward. And I nowadays I look back and I laugh, and it's like, wow, it took me almost 48 years to figure this shit out.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so adamant about telling my story. I want people to hear my story, for better or worse. This is what it was, and this is where I'm at now, and like we can get through it together. Like if you're going through a bad time, like I might bring up a conversation about a situation that I went through and take it for what it is and pick what pieces you want out of it, and hopefully there's something there that helps spark something in you to make that change,
Justine, her handle is jaded.inwonderland, I think it is. Justine just said, we can choose to suffer in our struggles, but why? What does that achieve?
In the end, it achieves wisdom if you make it out of it. But yeah, I mean, we're fighting ourselves for no reason.
But the wisdom comes from, if we can take ourselves out of that, look at it from this and learn from it, then the wisdom comes. But if we're suffering in it, in the whole going, why me, the universe hates me, the world hates me, I'm unlucky, blah, have that self-sympathy, as opposed to coming out, looking down at us and learning from that experience. That's the two different ways, right? I know, because conversely, I know people who fall over a hole, get up and keep going, and they don't even bother to learn. And then they fall in the same hole, and they fall in the same hole, and they fall. And then they ask, what the hell is life's bullshit, right? So they almost expect it because they didn't take the time to learn from. I'm happy to fall in a hole. I'm happy to fall in 10 holes over the next 10 days, long as it's not the same hole, because that means
it's all repeated cycles.
Yes,
it's all repeated cycles, and it's gonna keep kicking your ass until you make that change in yourself. And it all comes down to us to do it. Like, we can't change anybody else. We have to figure out ourselves, find out who we are at the core, what our boundaries are, and then protect those boundaries.
Yeah.
If somebody crosses it, well, this is my boundary. Like, and if they cross it again, they can't respect it. Well, they have to go. Like, if the vibe don't flow, they got to go.
Yes,
Like, we're not all on the same frequency, you know? Some of us are, some of us aren't. You don't have to be mean about it, but, you know, I've cut out a lot of people out of my life, including some family members that I just can't have in my life. You know, I'm protecting my peace at all cost.
there's a
I know what I need to do in this life, and I'm not going to stop until I take that last breath. I mean, and I want a peaceful existence. I don't want the drama anymore. I've lived all that, you know, I've lived it all. And, you know,
there's a
now I'm
couple.
on a nice 10-acre lot and I've got land to do whatever I want, you know?
Yeah. There's a couple of good comments in there from the audience, like as Tom said, misery is a seductress sometimes,
Hmm.
and Justin um, got a couple of very profound statements there. Meaning in there is meaning in our suffering, right? And we can bloom from the ashes. You know, it's so
Absolutely.
we can sit there and be the victim and not try, or we can say, okay, this shit happened to me. What am I going to do about it?
Right.
You know, am I going to be
Exactly.
that bug put in a jar and not blossom anymore, or am I going to say, all right, yes, that it's a drought. I'm not getting enough water, or the sun's damn intense, but I'm going to bloom anyway. The cherries
Hmm.
bloom every year without fail. They don't care if the bloom is beautiful or not. It just blooms. But man spends a lifetime worrying, am I going to bloom into something beautiful instead of just blooming? Be the best you can. Who gives a shit?
Right.
Is right.
The only opinion that matters is the opinion you hold over yourself at the end of the day.
Correct.
If you can come home with a clean conscience, knowing you did your best, and go to bed, well, then you've achieved something great. You know,
Yep.
focus on the little victories. Don't focus. You know, sometimes we have to take a step backwards and breathe.
Yes.
Sometimes we have to side shuffle for a little bit to find the path forward. I mean, but just keep moving. Just keep moving.
John, I've mentioned about popping, you know, I hope our paths cross in person. Man, I could talk to you for days and days about this stuff. I tell you what, you know, I'd better make sure it's not a flying visit, that I'm there for at least a couple of days, because I think it's going to be as we have these chats. Now,
Yes.
the other thing I really respect and appreciate in you, on you write and you speak from experience too. I know you're a mental health survivor and you are a strong advocate for abuse as well. And this all comes through the depth of in your what you write, which I really cherish and I love when I come across your work. Um, Now, also, I must also share to the audience, you've started hosting your own show on Zoom, which I popped in once, but I couldn't stay long because it's your evening is my work day, so um,
Hmm.
often I can't. But sometimes I log in and I just listen, although I can't perform or anything like that. But I enjoy it, and you've been getting some amazing artists in there. Even the musicians, they're brilliant, and I think Zoom lended itself where the musicians can really showcase their work as well. That's phenomenal. I'm really glad you're doing that because I think like attracts like, right? And you attract
Hmm.
amazing artists to that show. Some,
Yeah, it's a really I'm really blessed to have been asked to be a part of that, and you know the artists that come in there, it's a really good group of people that enter into there, and I'm blessed every Monday night to be a part of that and to experience that. Because it's nice being around like-minded people, you
yeah,
know, people, and just from doing that, I've been able to blossom friendships, you know, kind of spun off from that, and collaborations, and you know, those are important because, you know, like I said, you know, these conversations right here,
yeah,
you know, keep having these conversations, you know, we can learn so much from each other just from one line, one little comment, you know.
yeah.
um
The Yeah, I've been. each week I think, okay, got to jump on this, got it. But then I've been the last month or so, or actually since just before Christmas, my work's been pretty crazy because I'm preparing for the upcoming financial year and all that. I'm in consulting, so doing tenders and so forth. I've been pretty crazily busy, but I can't wait to be able to jump on that show, even if I can't read, just to be able to just listen and meet some of the other interesting people that
Yeah.
show. People that I'd like to even feature here, people, because couple of once or twice that I've been on, the quality of the poets that you had there were amazing, truly amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, anytime you want to jump on, just let me know, and I can bump you up the list if you want to read something.
Oh, I'm
Because I know you're under
listening to
time constraint. So.
the work of the people, and the musicians just blew me away. They really did.
Yeah, I'm blown away every week, and I'm just blessed in general to. I have a lot of artist and musician friends in my life, and the music scene here in Richmond is absolutely beautiful, and I'm blessed to be friends with a lot of them. So it's I love being around creative people,
I've got
like-minded people.
to get my butt up to your part of the world. Yeah, sounds
I
like.
gotta make it down there one of these days.
Oh, mate,
I'd love to come visit Australia.
if you are coming down, let me know in time. I'll make sure I got some time off to show you around. I live by myself, so there's spare rooms here as well. So, man, I tell you what, we'll be talking to the early hours of dawn each day. Just, yeah, a couple of
Angela's close to you too, isn't she?
Sorry?
Angela's close to you too, isn't she?
Yes, Angela now has started joining me on going to live open mic events every week. Pretty much she joins me weekly. Funny, for 3 years, she lives 20 minutes up the road. We never met. And now every week we go to open mics. The bug's bitten and she's enjoying the live performances. So.
That's beautiful. I have been too. I've been doing a lot of open mics in person. I've actually found that I'm getting more comfortable in front of a crowd than I do on these lives.
Yeah.
I know that's strange, but I've got a performance coming up May 12th here in Richmond at the Camel. Part of the Vagabond Poetry Tour.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Lipman, who is the honorary National Poet Laureate, is doing his kind of last tour of America. So I'll be joining him on May 12th, and then May 15th through the 18th, I've been invited to perform at Gonzo Fest in New Orleans. And that is a celebration of Hunter S. Thompson's work and life. And that's going to be an amazing experience. Poet laureates and some of the best poets from around the states will be there. So it's really an honor to get on that bill.
So happy for you. That's well deserved.
Yeah, it's kind of they switched it up and they put me on opening night. I was like, oh man, no pressure there, because opening night's like all the poet laureates, and it's like, why would you even put me there? Like, no pressure.
We'll get done. John, I really have. And sometimes it's not the whiz-bang performances, but it's the quality and the depth of the work, right, that speaks.
Absolutely. I've got a couple short ones here that I wanted to share.
Poetry, we've been talking a lot, as I figured. But,
well, I kind of figured that was going to happen with us.
Let's share the world some of your work now that we speak so much about. Yeah, let's do that.
All right. This one is titled Silence is Our Only Solace. In darkness, minds dance, spinning tales of wicked fantasy, twisting our beliefs beyond truths. Creative devil of circumstance we become until we can't bear this world no more. Silence is our only solace. It's a little short one, but powerful.
Just that title, and which becomes the ending line, just that alone, honestly, I could meditate on that, and I do remind myself about that a lot. Sometimes, I've been living on my own here for quite a while. My son moved out probably 4 years ago when he bought his own place. He elected to live with me when I split up, and
Mm-hmm.
then 4 years ago he bought his own place and he lived. And people say, "What? This is crazy. You could be just renting out a couple of rooms." But that silence in living by myself, I absolutely treasure that, you know.
Absolutely. Like I said, I just moved out here, and it's a small house, but it's 10 acres of land.
Yeah,
So I've got some old horse barns out there and stuff, and it's just so peaceful out here. There's no noise. It's so quiet.
yeah.
I wake up and make coffee in the morning. I look out the kitchen window, and there's bunnies running around the yard. I got some red-tailed hawks that fly around the property, and there's just so much wildlife and stuff out here. It's just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I think somewhere along the way we feel like we need somebody all the
Yeah.
time, and nobody. We get to a spot where we're uncomfortable being alone.
I'm I'm the other way. I've been a very extroverted person, but I'm also comfortable in being in a very introverted space. And after this show, I've got to drive to the city to go and support a trans female who I see at open mics, and I love her work. And
Hmm.
she's featured at this venue. So after this, I've got to go there. It's going to take 3 or 4. I'll be there for about 3 hours, and I'm
Yeah,
almost saying, "Damn, there goes my peaceful afternoon that I could be writing or doing stuff or going and hitting a couple of golf balls or something." But I am making time to go for that because, like, it's a hard. I've been really understanding and taking quite a love for a lot of the poetry and the work that comes from the trans community
hmm,
because their journey, firstly, in coming to terms with things that they changed themselves, but then the parents,
hmm,
the friends, then the comments and from within the community, feeling comfortable within the community and all that. I actually admire their strength. So I want to do the right thing and go and support her in her feature today, which will go for about 3 hours. So yeah, but
absolutely. It's a beautiful thing, and you're correct. I mean, you imagine like what I've been through or what you've been through, but the battle they have isn't just an internal battle,
yes,
but it's also that external battle of revealing yourself
yes,
and you know fighting for your own acceptance of being
yep,
you. So
yep,
yeah, I have nothing but true admiration, and a soul is a soul. I don't care what color you are, where you come from. I don't care what you identify as. You love who you love, and that's that. I mean, uh, you every soul has the right of being a soul, and we all deserve human rights. I mean, we're all supposed to, it's as simple as just supporting, like you said at the beginning of this, supporting people for who they are. And that's it. We're
yep,
all at different phases of our journey. We're all experiencing different things. We don't have to accept somebody back at our dinner table, but we do, you
yep,
know,
yep.
we don't have to be mean to anybody. We can accept people for who they are.
And the challenges I've faced, like whether it's 40 years ago, even in like racism and things like that, that sort of shit, or I could deal with because if there's a weed in the garden, I'll rip it out. So, I've had a pretty impetuous youth where, instead of turning and walking the other way, the arrogance in me, I'd go and smack the shit out of somebody who ever made some racist sort of comment or something like that. But this trans, what they go through, even with parents, you know what I mean? Like when you're dealing with that, you can't exactly go and smack your parents out, right? Because they don't understand your trans journey, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, it's a very different set of situations. And I really admire their strength and courage in walking down that path, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was fortunate to grow up in a very diverse area of Boston. So, I was, Boston is a melting pot of everything, you know. I went to school with every single race, with every single gender. Like, none of it mattered to me. You are who you are. If you're good to me, I'm good to you, and that's how it should be throughout life, just like a little child that runs up and hugs somebody's leg for no reason, they're not looking at color, they're not looking at race, they're not looking at gender, they're looking at a soul.
Melbourne has been that for 40 plus years. We're very cosmopolitan. You walk down one street, you could eat a dozen different nationalities, cooked by authentic people. We're very blessed. And most of the cities in Australia are like that. But in the 70s, it wasn't like that. In the 70s was the start of, we first started to get the immigrants from Vietnam after the war. And prior to that, it was Greeks, the Italians, the Maltese, and the early settlers from the UK. That was They were adjusted. Then started coming with people with different complexion skins, and that was a new change in the late 70s, which few years later they were risking cancer in solariums to be my color and so forth, right? But it was just the not knowing, oh, this is something different. The Vietnamese experienced the same thing after the war when they started coming. Today, they're second and third generation sort of Vietnamese here, and when they open their mouth, they got these strong Australian accents, and they've adapted so well into the community and so well accepted and really fitted in really well. But it was that initial change that we feel.
Yeah, and Boston was kind of like that in the 70s.
Sorry?
Boston was really like that in the 70s as well.
Yeah.
Because South Boston was all Irish. So Boston's like separated. It's like you have the Irish, you have the Mediterranean, you have the Italians, and then, it's like very segregated. And in the 70s, when they tried to merge kind of everybody, like there was big like riots and stuff that broke out. And it's sad for what,
Yeah. All right. Let's get more into some more poetry.
Yeah, this is a piece called Escape. To be bound and gagged, battered, beaten, dragged for miles by your own thoughts of denial, the abuse of physical and mental delivered by the hands and words of your hidden sadistic trials. It's my fault, really, for I seen the blast of that red flag cannon, smelled cotton candy, dank sugar, and watched your blistering fireworks that brought me so high, I never thought about the landing. Instead of the warning, I saw the carnival luring, taunting, bringing me in with that sweet taste of excitement. How could I not enter through the doors of the house that would soon be so frightening? You had my dopamine flowing, my heart was slowing, only to skip a beat. The moment I got lost in those eyes, the lies. The moment our lips touched, my blood rushed, and I was all yours for the taking. Love only to be mistaken, misleading. Guided by a gaslit lantern that would lead me down the darkest corridor of my existence. You were my drug, and who was I to resist it? An addict to your sweet, blissful poison. And I knowingly, wantingly pumped it through my veins, wanting that rush, that lust, that blissful blush. Instead, that was the hook with barbs of rust. It pierced my skin, reeled me in. The passion so exciting, full of sin, only to be punished and tortured within. Twisting and bending my mind, I was lost, full of doubt, made to be who I not was and couldn't find, trapped with no way out. And that one day, something inside you just breaks. Just then, no more can you take. You leave. If you don't look back, no matter how hard you're attacked, you go silent and start to spin. And there for a while, their torture wins. Can't move, can't breathe. People give up on you and leave. Or you leave them because what you've become in the mirror, how could you face anybody much clearer? And how would anybody even understand? Some of us don't make it. Stake their claim in the darkness and take it, no way out. At last, we're at our end, presented with the choice to surrender or live again. I choose life, my friend. I choose life.
Wow. This is why I love it when you come up, even when I used to have the open mics, when I used to come and read your pieces. John, that piece to me is timeless. It has no limitation, because one could relate that to an emotional bond with somebody, that to a addiction to substance, to a fear of leaving a dysfunctional profession, something that doesn't serve your purpose, but for fear of the unknown, we stay in that, and we got to make that decision. It's so relatable to in so many ways. I know a couple of years ago, I was in a long distance relationship. And I should have read the red flags. She was so full of her own goddamn ego and herself that she had no fucking time for love, right? And I should have seen those red flags, but that myself until I just said, okay, I'm not an option to anybody, and I stepped out and walked out.
Right.
We walked down this path, right? Sometimes the person's got no time for love because they're so full of themselves and their own journey and their careers and their looks and whatever the hell. Love was not even a secondary seat. It was like a 3 or 4 rows behind, right, in priority. Why the hell did I? And I've been down this road enough times that I born yesterday. I should have seen the flags, but I was stupid because I wasn't finding that balance between heart and mind, right?
Well, and it's that want over need as well. We want, but do we need? Is that vibrational flow there? Is there a flow or is there a resistance?
Yeah.
You're with somebody and you're arguing all the time. Well, I mean, there's obviously, it's either a communication problem or you're just not meant to be together. Not everybody's meant to be friends. Not everybody's meant to love.
Yeah.
It all comes down to those boundaries and knowing yourself and what sets you off and what makes you tick.
Yeah.
And setting up those clear boundaries from the beginning in friendships and relationships and anything. And just saying, this is the line.
Yeah.
If you cross it, I'll give you another chance. But if you cross it again, you're disrespecting me. Yeah. You have to move on.
Yeah. I've never been, and they never planned to be anybody's option. You accept me, and be that in a job or be that in a relationship. At work, like I treat from the managing director down to the cleaner the same, right? And you accept me as I am, but I'm not an option. If you don't like it, man, I'm out of here, and you find yourself else, right? But also what I love the cadence of when you recite those pieces too, because your that soulful sort of expression of it really allows plenty of time for each line to sink in, and with the depth of your voice, that it really conveys the message that in the piece, and it's such a powerful piece. I mean, that piece really to me is timeless and has no limitation to a particular aspect of life. It can it can relate to almost most things in one's life that we face. So,
Yeah, kind of when I wrote it, it was relationship and drugs. It was kind of intertwined between those two when I wrote it.
Yeah.
During that time, I was working out a lot of things. And it's. I always find it funny when people in my personal life read one of my pieces and they're like, "Oh, who's that about?"
Yeah.
What's that about? And I'm like, why has it got to be about anybody or a particular person?
Yeah.
I said, sometimes I'm writing about a memory that was 30 years ago.
Yep.
I might read you a love poem that I wrote yesterday, but it might be towards somebody that one of my first loves, 40 years ago when I was in elementary school. It could be about, my ex-wife at one point. I was thinking about that heavy last night when I was reading through these, and
I mean,
thinking about all the loves of my life. In a sense,
transparency. Where, as I said, that piece could relate to somebody who's struggling with substance abuse or an addiction.
Absolutely.
This relationship, emotional relation, a friendship, even. It's so transparent across. It has something to offer. It has a lot to offer, not something. It has a lot to offer to many aspects of somebody experiencing challenges in many aspects of life, and that really is a credit to the depth of your writing too, John. It really is.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. Sometimes I go through these phases where I look at my writing and I'm like, it's all rubbish. I don't like any of it, and I've kind of been one of those phases. The last 6 weeks I've been moving and I've been trying to get used to it out here, and I've been writing a little bit, not as much as I used to, but I've been looking back at pieces and I'm being a little hard on myself, I guess, there lately. But I've been experimenting and also and trying to do some different things. This is a piece I wrote recently, and I don't have a name for it yet. It's another short one, but it's a little bit different. My rib had been pierced by Lilith in the Garden of Eden, cursed by the fruit of a poison apple. I was there when the palace collapsed into the ocean, and one drop fell from the cheek of Eve, and we were both spelled into the sea. And where will you be when the gavel falls? Hammer of judgment from all your gods. The whispers will tell your secrets when death smiles, and your eyes turn back to reflections of the stars.
Yep. A lot of questions that one can ask themselves, right? Where will we be? We can be any place through good times and when things are going good, but when the hammer falls, when the dust settles, who's left standing there? Who's the people there? And who are the ones that you got to go look for? Where the hell did they go?
Right. And it all comes down to us, and it all comes down to that one conscious decision to be your best self.
Yeah.
And show up for yourself in every moment, and that means holding yourself accountable.
Yes.
I went through this little thing where it was every day I'd get home from work, I'd put my keys on the desk. And then during the night, I would end up moving them and I'd lose them, and I'd wake up and where the hell are my keys, So every day when I came home, I'd try to put them up on the key ring as soon as I walked in. And sure as shit, I'd get up to my desk and I'd throw them on the desk. I'd be like, and I'd walk downstairs just to hang them up. And this happened every day. And like 3 weeks into it, I walked in the front door and I hung them up. And that was like the most proudest moment of my life. I was like, oh my God, yes, I did it. I finally did it. You know, I showed up for myself every day. I walked back down those stairs to hang up those keys until finally one day it just became what it was. It became a natural flow. And now I always know where my keys are, but we can do that. I know it sounds silly,
Yeah.
but it was like one of those moments where I actually proved it to myself. And it's like, I can apply this to anything I need to do in life.
Yes, yes.
And just show up for myself every single day. If this is where I want to be, well, these are the steps I have to take. Well, I have to show up every day. I can't take a day off. And eventually it's just going to become that natural flow state of it's just going to happen. Yep. But you have to put in the effort and put forward the action for it to become a reality.
Yep. Funnily, if we bother to look, nature can show us so much, right? You know, we go for a long walk in the bush or up in the hill country and we walk. But if we pause to look as we walked, it can show us so much. You know.
Mm-hmm. They really can. I'm excited. My dear friend that's renting me this place, you know, she used to have horses out here and everything. They're all gone. It's kind of grown back, but she has beehives out here, and I want to get them set up. And she was telling me a story. She's like, when I had them set up, she was like, I'd come out here and just sit here and watch them operate. She's like, and it's funny, in the summertime, all the work would be surround the hive, and they do this dance, and their wings are going, and what they're doing is they're fanning off the hive, so the mother bee can stay cool inside. And she's like, it's amazing. Everybody knows their role, and everybody performs their role every day. She's like, you can learn so much just from watching a bee. And it's true with all of nature. I mean, it's a constant flow, it's a constant circle, and everybody knows their role. And you know, once you learn yourself, you can really start going.
But and then when you look, if you were to take that bee, you know, and you look at the whole process of, you know, how it just goes to get its own source of food, it goes from flower to flower and then pollinates, and then, you know, it's a whole chain of events that happen there. Life itself, you know, nature itself is that full circle of life that we can learn so much from, you know.
Absolutely.
Some of the human behaviors I've never seen any animal do, you know. I've never seen any animal go and sodomize a dead of its kind, but humans do. How you know, understand that?
I don't know. Just like everything, it's a balance. You know, with night is day, with good is bad, and it's all a conscious decision which way you want to go.
Yeah.
You either want to see through eyes of love or you want to see through eyes of hate. You know, heaven and hell isn't a destination, but rather a state of mind.
Of course.
We get to choose. We get to make that choice.
Yeah. All right, now we've got just under half an hour to go, so let's get into some poetry or anything else you want to showcase, John. Let's.
I've got another one here. I wrote this and kind of put it away, and I'm just going to read it, and we'll see where this one goes. This one's called Shadows of the Soul.
I love the title.
Thank you. Words speechless as I find divine within this mind that all the darkness spilled out of. Time melts away this disguise while a whisper of lies freezes from the cold energies that surround me. The cracking of the freeze echoes in resounding silence, bouncing off eternity through the strings of dimensions within space and without time. Defining that fine line between reality and insanity, the remnants of a broken society. To be frozen in the human design the maze in this mind where all time is sated, sealed, and dated. A sentence to be served, enslaved to faded memories enlisted by the seminary hymns of a former battleground, the sounds that still haunt me. Silent streams that stream through the inherent quality of mind, a sign that I've fallen ill by my own thoughts, tied in a knot while trying to escape the darkest moments. The self-torment that would lead me to see the darkest sides of me, for no man or woman should ever see or meet such demons. Soul coming unglued, unhinged, as the demons pulled me limb from limb. The test of Sims where no faction wins, but the moments of sin begin to take this mind, lost within the walls of my own brokenness. Yet through that dark night of the soul that took its toll, I found a light, an inner sight. My eyes have become blinded to this world. The whispers that swirled of unkind gestures that measured this self-worth have been reversed. Tonight I sit here in silence with face to the sky, watching the moon fold unto itself, once more to reflect anew while building itself back whole. The cycle of life, to live and die so many times within one lifetime. The tortoise moves slow and steady, not to win a race, but to complete a journey. Each step keeping a pace, only ever wearing its one true face. Lessons presented in plain sight, yet still we fight for the want over need, to please this ego that pirates this mind and vessel. Nothing more or less of. The torture we sacrifice upon ourselves when living in doubt, shouting, screaming, weaning ourselves off the nipple of society. Accountability over denial is a priority. To wake up from the dream when eyes close, for seeds will always be sown in the shadows of the soul.
Wow. That's even another piece that one could really reflect on every time you read it. Every time you read it, there'll be more and more and more. John, I've got to ask you, have you got any publications out, or are you planning on?
Yeah, I've got I was in issue 4 of Create magazine, and then I had some work being published, or actually was just published in Great Coven Publishing's Winter Anthology. I've got some more stuff coming out. I started to write a book. I had a manuscript and I threw it away. I did not like it. I wasn't happy with it. And it wasn't like, rubbish. It was just, my writing wasn't where I wanted it to be yet, to be able to tell the story I want to tell. And I think I'm getting close to that place.
I hope when the time is right that you will publish your own work, because the reason being is, as you recited that piece or any of the pieces, you really latch onto so many good lines. But I think each time somebody reads it, it'll have different meaning, and there'll be different lines. And through the recital, I mean, time melts away this disguise. That's such a profound statement. Who I was, or the way I looked at life 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or a week ago, is different to who I am today. So that this illusion we live, or we think we hold so tightly to, melts with time, right? And without space and time, when you meditate and you forget space and time and you listen to that, the reality of the two are very different, powerful lines, and then there was a line that I didn't get the full thing. It was the maze in this mind where time is blah blah, you know. our mind is a complex maze that we create, through our fear,
Hmm.
uh, judgments, through our prejudices, through our expectations. My God, there are so many powerful lines in there. Fallen ill by my own thoughts. Well, that says so much, right?
It does, and it's that fear that you stated. It's kind of like love or fear, and we confuse them both so
Yep.
much.
You know,
Um, and we let fear, like I only speaking for myself, I let fear dictate my life for so many years. Like I didn't want to upset this person, so I'll
yep.
just hold back, or I need to, fear literally dictated my life for so long. And I look at it now, and it's like, oh my God, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Where now I'm keeping fear right in front of me. Like this whole poetry thing, releasing I was scared for years to release it. Now I'm releasing
Yeah.
it. Now I'm getting up and reading it. Now I'm getting up and performing it. Now I'm going to leave my state to go perform in another state. It's giving up the facade of what the society teaches you to be and just be who you're meant to be.
Yeah.
Chase those crazy dreams, chase that passion. Whatever sparks a passion in you, whatever sparks a fire in you, whatever that wonder is that you held in your eyes when you're a little child, that's what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
No matter what anybody thinks or says about it. It's not their journey.
Yeah.
You live your way, let me live my way.
When I reflect on my wild youth, impetuous youth, those two lines that says, fallen ill by my own thoughts. And today I sit here in silence looking at the sky. I can relate to that. So, you're talking to a guy who's jumped on a plane and gone to go and smack somebody out because of some shit they did from 1,000 miles. But, that's just a wild, impetuous youth. Today, you can say whatever you want to my face. I couldn't give a rat's, and I just think, oh, yeah, really.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? A totally different person to, you know, that, what I'd, one of the reasons I like to see your work published is because if I was to read that poem 10 times in the next ten days or 10 months or 10 years, the same lines would give me different meanings because my standpoint, my vantage point in life would be either 10 months or 10 years grown. But
Hmm.
I think if I was to read it, even there's so many powerful. Every line in that piece was so powerful. That's reflective. That can be a focus of a meditation. Each of those lines, and that's why I'd love to see your work published, John. I think there's a lot for people to get in your work. They're not about bubbling springs and rainbows and heartbreak. Like you talk about the deeper meaning, that spirit, that you have that spiritual context to even a heart. I mean, I write about heartbreak, but I always have that spiritual context to it.
Hmm.
Not just the somebody did somebody wrong song sort of thing, but what my
No, it's the lesson in it, it's the lesson of it. And that's, I could write about flowers if I wanted to, but I don't want to write about flowers. I want to write about the human condition.
yes,
I want to write about what I know,
yeah.
what I've experienced, and hopefully somebody will read it 50 years from now, and it
Well,
might bring a little light of hope to them.
I think being, as you said, being a mental health survivor and that coming out in your work alone, I think people don't need to wait 50 years. They'll benefit from that right in the now because it's such a condition that plagues the globe. It's not just
Hmm.
specific to the US, it's not specific to Australia. It plagues the world, you know. Even
Absolutely.
even with the way social conditioning, if I was to look at some of the Asian countries and some of the subcontinent, some of the conditioning that these people live, outdated conditioning that people live by. And I have friends whose children are being getting psychological help to try and outgrow. So I think in something reading work from somebody like yourself, I think it's a very empowering tool that can help them in their growth. In
No, absolutely.
therapies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's like I said, that's why I enjoy telling my story, for better or worse, you know. There's moments I wasn't proud of, but they were real, they happened. I learned from them, I grew from them, and anybody can change at any given time. It's just a conscious decision away.
There's
And
many, people who've known me in the last 20 years sort of say, "Oh, you're such an earth angel." Well, they don't know the years before I was a spawn of Satan. I was that guy who dropped out of the ceiling in the middle of the night when you were asleep. You know what I mean? Because of something you did. I was this devil's own child. You know what I mean? But I'm not ashamed because all that is what's made me. As I said, I'll hop on a plane and just to go and pay evens to somebody because of something they did or said. You know what I mean? Like, stupid. Right? I was well on my way to a prison. Right?
Yeah.
But I'm not ashamed of it. It's
Neither am I. Neither am I. I was for a time there. And, and then, it's like that something clicked in my head, and it's like, you got to just let it go. It happened. It was real. Don't hide it.
yeah,
Talk about it.
yeah.
And I'm happy that I've lived in all walks of life. I went from having nothing to being able to build my own little world. I had a house, I had a nice family, I ended up as vice president over telecommunications, and then like lost it all, and then built it again, and then lost it all, and then here I am, for the fourth time rebuilding again. But now it's not for money, it's not for all the bullshit. I'm living my life for me. I'm chasing my passion. I'm trying to help people, but most importantly, putting myself and my own mental health first.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not good with myself, I can't be good for anybody else.
Yeah.
I've been abstinent now for almost a year. I have no want for a relationship right now in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm holding tight to that conviction, and it's not that I don't want to, but I know where it's going to bring me right now, and I'm more important. I mean more than anything else that I know will have a potential to spin me out.
I think you also built that place of peace within yourself. That foundation that will let that inner self blossom and be who you truly are. And I think that's vital.
And then share it with the world.
Yes, and I think that's something that we all, as people, going through the physical experience, I think that's what we're here to do. To find that plateau where we have grown through the turmoils, the mental illusion that we see in our minds.
And then, at the same time, I think that's why, suffering is a profound experience. Only through suffering can you truly find the spirit within and reconnect once again and see things for what it is.
Yep.
And then pass that knowledge on to others. I mean,
now, John, we've probably got time for one closing piece, but before you go there, I'd just like to thank everybody in the room. Justine, Tom, you're a faithful supporter in this show each week. Sir Lawrence, will be featuring you very soon as well. Thank you to everybody, because without your comments and without your support, as I say each week, it's very hard for the featured artists to give off themselves. So your comments and your participation in the room really helps that to really showcase the true nature of our guest. And John, when I post this on Instagram, I'll add you as a collaborator so you can have this whole show page, but also over the next week when I create the YouTube and the video and all the podcasts, I'll send you the links, which you feel free to use any which way to promote your own work and so forth, and to share with any which way you like. I do it, as I said, this show is all about you and it's all for you, right? And I think this is this definitely to me is only a part one. We got to do this again because I think we got a lot of profound discussions to really explore and exploit. And I know there's so much of your work that we could also explore further. But look, we'll do it again if you're in agreement.
I would love to anytime.
You love it. And I feel like I've only just scratched the surface. I think I could talk like this for days with you, my friend. You are a very similar soul to me, and our journeys are very much in parallel, and that's why I probably relate so much because I could talk to you on the life for days.
I feel the same. I feel the same, and I was honored that you asked me to be here, and I really am grateful for this moment and just the conversation. I feel the same.
My absolute pleasure, John. I'm sorry it's taken so long. I'm getting on to over 2 years of doing this show, so and I've got Tom coming on very soon too. Tom DeSara. I can't wait for that one as well in May, early May. So yeah.
Well, Tommy's amazing. I'm an absolute fanboy of his work.
I've got all four of
absolutely
here, and they are phenomenal.
I only got one so far. I'm working on getting more.
Well, they're all as hefty as the one you've got. If you hit somebody on the head with it, you'd kill them because they're solid. They're not your.
He's an amazing writer. He's actually one of my favorite writers that I've met on here. I love his writing. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful.
I'll keep his books on my coffee table, and I'll randomly pick up a book and flick to a page and just read his pieces. Yeah, it's really good. But no, John, thank you very much, my friend. It really has been an honor and a pleasure to have you here, and we won't leave it here. I'm hoping that to randomly start getting back into doing my open mics. I might not do it on a weekly ritual thing because I'm trying to make time for people. I neglect family, I neglect friends because of I'm driven like a machine, and I'm trying to step away from that. So I might start doing random pop-up open mics. And if I do, I'd love to see you back there and where we can have more.
Yeah, let me know anytime. I'd love to join.
Sure.
It's always an honor to spend time with you, my friend.
Likewise, mate. Likewise. I honestly mean that from my heart. It really is.
Me too. I'll leave you with this. This is a new piece I wrote. I don't know what it is. Love poem. It's something. I said to her, let's go in deep, crawl through the maze, explore each other's brains. Don't refrain from the truth. I want to explore you, be explored. Let's not ignore this moment. I seek in you no mask, but flesh unveiled, to break our own sails and read the letters of our souls. The old scrolls, rough around the edges, written in cursive, smoothed by the quills of our own pens. We can mend the wounds forsaken by our own minds. If you would just take this moment to dive deep with me, let's swim through the oceans of time, unwinding the clocks and syllables expelled. Let's tell each other the secrets of the universe, explore our unknown stars. No matter how far, two feathers are better than one, and we can fly through dimensions. We are beams of light, and this energy can take us anywhere. So why don't we take a minute and dip our toes in the water of this conversation? Thank you.
Wow. Explore each other's brains. Now, isn't that to me, yeah, in the days of youth, you see that beautiful woman or whatever, and it's more like lust than love, right? But to me now, be it a friendship, be it a emotional bond, it's more about exploring their minds and their souls, right? What drives them. It's more,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely. I mean, I want, I'm not one for small talk. Like, don't come to me with the weather or,
yeah,
like, I want to know
yeah,
you. Like, I want to know your thoughts on the universe. I want to know your theories on life. I want to know your, everything. Like, just be you, for better or worse, or.
yeah. And a line there, I seek in you no mask, and old souls rough around the edges. Yeah, I don't care about your flaws and flaws. I want to know all that, right? We can
Yeah,
work through those, what we'll get in there, but I want to know that. I don't need you to hide it from me. Be who you are.
right.
Show me that openness, and I'll show you where I come from. You know what I mean? You don't have to pretend. Yeah, seeking such profound lines, man. I really love the lines here. I love how your mind works. You know,
Thank you. That means a lot.
it it
That means a lot.
really is. That the profoundness of those words. Five simple words there, right? I seek in you no mask. Wow, five simple words, but says so much.
Thank you.
90% of the people that I encounter in a day, I see these masks. You know.
Everybody has them.
Oh my God. Yes, yes.
Everybody has them, and I'm so glad that I've removed
Yeah.
all mine.
I'm guilty of wearing this cloak around me, where I don't show that, not now so much, but for all my life pretty much, I wore this cloak where people only saw the wild, the extroverted side. They never saw the inner vulnerable side. That was my
Hmm.
century even my family didn't know that. And we're all guilty of, whether it's a mask, whether it's a cloak or something, that place where we can go and be who we are. And it
Right.
was when I started exposing my work is where extroverted, introverted part of me, and now is it. They see both sides,
Hmm.
that wild side and that, you know,
Well, we all got a wild side.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's good to, it's that balance. It's that balance. We all got a dark side. We all got a light side. We all got to put a healthy balance, the ego and spirit. People say, oh, kill the ego. Well, no, you need the ego, but you just need to balance it with the spirit.
it's
And when you can do that, that's when you can make the magic.
yeah. I always put it as standing between the fire and the ice and finding balance in the middle. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Pretending one isn't there is then without the dark there, light has no meaning, right? No,
Right. Even Mother Earth lives in both night and day at
yeah,
the same time.
exactly. John, thank you very much, my friend. As I said, when I post it, I will add you as a collaborator. Justine, Tom, Sir Lawrence, everybody who's been in the room and been in and out of the room, thank you. And to those who will also watch the replay of this too. Lately, John, what I've noticed in the last few months, up to 2, 3 weeks later, I'm getting people commenting on interviews on this, which means it's great. People are actually watching it at a more convenient time, sometimes a couple of weeks, 2, 3 weeks later. So I only noticed that in the last 3 months or so, whereas before, in the immediate few days following it, people watch it. But people are going back on my page and seeing this later, which is phenomenal.
Which is, I mean, I kind of do that myself. I'll run into something by accident and sit there and watch somebody's interview or,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
you know, So it's good that they're everywhere and people can enjoy it at their own convenience. I know right now Escape Artist is being featured over on Open Minds, so I'm
Nice.
definitely gonna go back and watch hers,
Yeah.
and after this, I'm probably gonna jump over there and see if they're
Yeah.
still going. Show her some love and support.
John, thank you. It has been an honor, my friend. It really has. And I, on a personal level, have absolutely loved these couple of hours of our discussions in these couple of hours. And Justine, Tom, everybody that's been in the room, I really, really value your support for the show as well, to really help our featured guests, and your comments go a long way. Yeah, stay safe, my friend. Stay blessed, and we will talk.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much, my friend. It's been an honor, and I look forward to seeing you again here soon, sometime.
Stay safe, stay blessed, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.